Welcome back to In Pursuit of Magic, where we explore the things that inspire us, connect us, and the magic we find along the way. I'm Matthew Medina, and today's very special guest is an incredibly talented actress who's been part of multiple shorts, series, stage productions, including Abandon All Hope, Death on the Border, The Raven, Gleam, and Sugar Skull. She was recently in Uncertainty at the Caveat in NYC. I'm very excited to welcome Juliana Sleme. Juliana, thank you so much for being on. I was seeing all the stuff you've been part of, and it's like so cool that you've gotten to work with so many different people and tell so many different kinds of stories and in different ways too, whether it's on stage or screen, which is really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, it's been great. I actually started mostly doing theater, but when I decided to move to New York, decided that what I really wanted to do was film. And so most of my credits, as you probably found out, is films and short films and that kind of stuff. But I love coming back to the theater whenever I can. So I've been very lucky that when I do, it's always a passion project. It's always been a project that has a lot of care and love from the writers and the creators. And we can talk a lot more about it later too. But yeah, I've been very lucky that I'm able to do both theater and film in New York City. This is really, really lucky.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's also such a different experience to be doing theater. And I've heard from other people what it's like to form connections with people in the city and work with them and be thought of for other things and work together again. And that sense of community is usually such an important thing too, because you never know whether a production is going to go the way you want it to go or who you're going to end up working with and what that atmosphere is going to be like. I know collaboration is a big thing. And theater,
Yeah,
I feel like, gives way to a lot of opportunities. And I'm
it
sure a
really
lot of
does.
inspiration also. So what have been your inspirations really to just get started and wanting to be a performer and get involved in theater?
It all started because of my dad. I love just bringing him up because truly, I don't think I would have fully pursued theater if he didn't make me his little muse when I was a child. Me and my family really believe that he would have been a producer or like a director type. He's just so full of creativity and he's a Disney dad. So he loves magic, he loves fantasy. And I feel like, I'm the first child, and I'm a girl. So I was his little princess, I was his little muse. He would make me sing, we would practice together, we would do poetry together. He would put me on competitions, and it became like a daughter and father kind of thing. And that really was the baseline, like the cement of my passion for art was seeing and enjoying time with my dad. Actually, this brings back when I left Mexico. I'm originally from an island in Mexico called Cozumel. And when I left there to come here and pursue acting in the city, because I came for college first, I was very lucky that I did a lot of theater back in Mexico, and that was like my first job in the island. And the director that we were working with, we made Tarzan, and I was Turk because I used to be an aerial dancer, so Turk had a lot of like aerial movements. But the very cool thing is that they decided to hire my dad as Kerchak, as like, the dad of Tarzan, the gorilla dad of Tarzan. And that it could
Yeah.
bring me to tears because I was able to go to rehearsals with my dad. I was able to bring back that childhood memory of us running lines, and it was so fun to see him go through costume tests and all of this stuff. And it was genuinely really beautiful, and it was a really nice way to say goodbye to that part of my life, that stage of my life with my family, my parents, being super involved in my career, to then just go by myself into the city. And I will forever be grateful for the people behind that project for allowing us to do that together. It was amazing.
That's so beautiful, especially it being Tarzan, which is such like a parent-child story in so many
Oh
different
my God.
ways. I think that's an added layer of magic. And you describing your dad, it just makes me think I'm very similar. I have an 8-month-old daughter, almost 8 months, and I'm a Disney dad, and to the point where like she already, if she's napping on my shoulder, if she hears the intro of the Disney movie, just like the fanfare, she will like get up and look back, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're definitely my daughter. And it's funny you mentioned Tarzan because as soon as she was born and they gave her to me to feed or whatever, I started singing You'll Be in My Heart. So very
Oh my
personal for
god.
me. It's so funny that you have that connection with your dad because it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. And I think having that connection with the people you love and the family and your baseline is so important, especially when you're going out on your own and you're on this journey, which can bring so many twists and turns and ups and downs. And I'm
Good.
sure that you go through all of it.
Oh, yeah.
And do you think it was that experience that made you feel like, this is what I want to do with my life? Like, this feels right.
Yeah, it was definitely it all came from the amazing support that I had at home, which again, I'm very lucky because from the beginning, my parents, my siblings, they all understood that acting was the thing. I would pass on family parties, weddings, even funerals sometimes because I had rehearsal or because I had a show or I had to travel for something. And it caused tension sometimes, but I always pushed and I made them understand very early on that it wasn't negotiable, at least at that point. Now that I'm older, I feel like I've grown into a different point of view. That hunger has persisted, but I think now that it's a career and I'm not so young and everything is so new and exciting, now that it's a constant, I think I'm able to prioritize family and my people a lot more. And I think that's something that comes with time. But yeah, it all started with my family. Amazing people who supported me. My mom would, like, make my dresses. She would everybody was super involved in my Mexican little theater career. Yeah, and that really propelled me to feel confident. I was a nerd, okay? So I was an a bullied little girl nerd who was kind of awkward and was very much into anime and all things geeky and nerdy. And theater, it was, like, the only thing that I really enjoyed outside of that. And that once I became confident in being an actress, which of course at that age I was a little chubby and like not very attractive. So it was hard. But once I came into it and I was like, no, this is who I want to be and I'm gonna work on that. Suddenly I became much more confident. I started to have more friends. I started to flourish. So I will forever be grateful that my family gave me that confidence, and that confidence gave me friendships and experiences that otherwise I wouldn't have, and it's all tied together. I feel like theater is a big part of my life. It really is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's so relatable, just your experience. I mean, I was a nerd growing up into nerdy things. I was chubby. I was all the things. So, and it was my teenage years that I joined a drama group in my church, and I felt the same kind of experience. Like I got out
Oh
of
my
my
god.
shell more. I was more confident. I was being funny. Like people just it was a different experience. You get to explore other parts of you. So completely understand what you're saying. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
your family being so involved and supportive made all the difference. And I think especially now when you're kind of on your own to have that kind of part of your life still there and then to be making new connections and new communities, I think is so essential because it's not always easy. And I'm sure that you feel the magic when they come together on stage and you're in an ensemble. But sometimes the journey feels very solitary because even though there's so many other people on that same journey, it's still your path that you're on. And that could also feel lonely sometimes.
Absolutely. Especially I think with film, actually. I feel like with theater, it's very easy to like I just Valeria, who you interviewed, um, I consider her now a best friend. And I met her on a theater production of Sugar School. But that's the only real, like, solid friendship I've been lucky enough to have in the 8 years that I've been here that has come from a project. Because I do mostly film, and that's such a short amount of time. You don't really get to know people. So it's very much like in and out, and then back to auditioning all by yourself. That's it. So yeah, I totally agree that it can be a very lonely experience. And in my experience, especially with films and short films and all that stuff, I wanna do more theater.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's so different. I mean, you think of kind of these big budget movies where there's actors who are playing like the best of friends or being close, and then people think, oh, they must be so close in real life and keep in touch. And not all the time. They'll be like, oh yeah, we'll see each other at premieres, we'll wish each other well.
Yeah.
but it's not always that closeness. But in theater, yeah, that happens a lot where you form bonds and you're in the same circles a lot and you're seeing each other often, which I think is such a beautiful like outcome of it, I think, and also just
Yes.
helpful. I think it's nice to see familiar faces and work together again. Um,
Yeah.
because in chasing any dream, there's going to be hardships. There's going to be a lot of closed doors and no's, and not always the path that you think you're going to take is the one that you end up on. And so, for you, what has it been like to find ways to overcome those obstacles and not let it put your light out, but keep that fire lit?
I guess a lot of faith. I don't consider myself a religious person, but I do believe in purpose. And I guess in a way, like destiny. Like I even hesitate to say it because I don't really know what I believe in, but I have a lot of faith in myself and in what I am able to focus on. I think my mind is my strongest and my best ally, and really setting myself up for success is what I strive for. And I have a lot of faith in that. So here's a fun story about Sugar School. I actually auditioned for Sugar School a year before I actually booked it. Uh, I think it was 2023 when I auditioned. They did the 2020, sorry, no, I auditioned 2024. And then they did the 2024 tour. I thought I did amazing in the audition. I really like thought that it was mine. I was like, Vita is mine, and I love her, and it's amazing playing her. And and usually what I do is I forget about the auditions that I do just to help myself not put that pressure on myself. I don't even keep up with casting announcements. I really just like in and out. That's the easiest, most healthy way to be an actor in the city, I think. Um, but with Vita and Sugar School, I could not let it go. It was one of those auditions that a week would go by, 2 weeks would go by, and it would cross my mind. And I'll be like, don't look it up. Don't look it on social media. And I don't be like, okay, let me just, that's how I found out that I didn't get it, and that really bummed me. Another thing is that because I'm very ethnically ambiguous, I don't always get cast as Mexican. I usually get cast as ambiguous Latina, a lot of like Europeanish, Middle Easternish. I am Lebanese as well. So a lot of like ethnically ambiguous, right? Even though my full identity is Mexican. So I've always been struggling with that. So, but this character I really resonated with because, of course, it's about the Day of the Dead, and I live it with my family. Again, my dad makes us celebrate because he's a Disney dad. Christmas, Halloween, everything is like fantasy overlord, and like decorations and candles and colors, outfits. Oh my goodness. My dad is a producer of the family. So all of these things, especially Day of the Dead, I lived those things. I sang with my family. I laughed whenever we would have those celebrations. It was so big. So again, I related to Vita a lot, and it was very hard for me to let that go. Anyway, a whole year goes by and I get the call that they want me, or they were considering me for the 2025 tour. And oh my goodness, that was such a relief. And later on, I found out that they were actually auditioning 2024 because they already had the 2024 cast. They were looking for the 2025 cast. And I just thought that I didn't get it on 2024. So it was a roller coaster emotions. But it did mean that when I didn't book the 2024, I was able to do other projects. So again, it's a lot of faith. I think things end up working out. And obviously this doesn't always happen. There's been times when I'm still thinking about a project that I didn't book, and I never booked it in the future. Um, but I think there are silver linings everywhere, and I think it has to come back to staying focused and locked in on what you want to accomplish and what really resonates with you.
Definitely. And I think, like you said, faith is such a big part of it and believing that things will work out the way they're supposed to. A lot of people say what's meant for you is yours and it will happen. And I feel like you felt it with this role. Like you felt it from the start. You were like,
Did I felt
this
it?
role is for me. And it showed. Of course it
Yes.
worked out because you knew it from the start. And I feel like the casting people also saw that. So they felt it too. And it just goes to show also like
Yeah.
sometimes our own timetables are not what's going to end up happening, but that's okay because those swerves still take us where we're meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And what advice would you give to others who are following their dream, whatever it may be, and are disheartened by those obstacles or the closed doors or no's or even no response at all?
Um, I think it's always hard to give advice because I don't want to sound privileged. I'm coming from a place of privilege in the sense that my family is very supportive, and the fact that my ethnicity is ambiguous, so I fit in a lot of characters. Like, so I think that the most accurate thing to say is stay true to yourself and also know where you best fit in. I have a lot of friends who they started as actors and then they found their way into producing and have very successful careers producing commercials, films, and they have more money than me. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like we have to be, and I do this for myself too. I want to be very real. If at one point I feel like, because I want to be a mom, right? At one point I'm like, okay, it's enough of this dream. If it never like gets to the big like thing, and like for example, I would love to be on the Oscars. Obviously, that's everybody's dream. And but if it comes to a point where it's like, okay, it's time to like maybe lay back a little bit and focus on my life. Remember how I mentioned now I'm able to really step back, think of my family, think of the people around me, my partner, my boyfriend. I think I have the maturity now to be like, I think I'm gonna know. I'm gonna be able to tell. I'm never gonna stop acting, but I think my priorities can fluctuate throughout my life. Maybe I'll stop for a little bit and then I'll come back in my later years as a mom, and that'll bring me more experience, and I'll be able to play different characters. I used to be very afraid to play moms, and I already do. And I'm not even. I don't think that I'm that old, but I already play mom sometimes. And at first it was kind of scary, but then I was like, I'm booking a lot more as like mom characters, wife characters, and I'm enjoying it. They're a lot more complicated and complex and full of depth and layers. I feel like they tend to be fuller characters, at least in my experience. And I think that has allowed me to accept that, I'm getting into my later 20s. I'm going to get into my 30s in maybe 2 to 3 years. So, like, and that's okay. And that's a different stage. And there's always going to be work. But as a human, I want to be able to fluctuate my priorities. And that's the advice I would give. Because I don't want to miss out on my life because I'm so focused on the one thing. And the cool thing is, when I'm able to leave acting for a month, for example, and I live my life with my friends, with my family, when I go visit Mexico for a whole month, and I'm not acting at all, I come back so full of life, and most of the time I end up booking a lot the month right after I come back, which is really interesting. I don't know what it is. It's like life comes back into me. I had a breath of fresh air. And again, that's what I mean by like I think we need to fluctuate. We need to change priorities maybe once or twice a year just so we can really flow with life. And I think that's the best thing any other artist can do. I also paint, and sometimes all I do is focus on painting. And that distracts me from things and gives me new experiences, new griefs, new everything that then I can bring on into my acting and use it. But if we don't, if we forget to live life, we're not going to get those new experiences. So, yeah, I think being very aware of yourself is the advice, and live your life. Don't lose yourself in your dream, but build it, I think.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
that's great advice because it's not such a solitary thing. I think there's been so many people I've talked to who have said, have other passions. There's people who are into gardening or writing
Oh my
or
God.
whatever it may be where they can pour themselves into. And like you said, time with family and friends is everything to recharge that battery and just do your thing and know that you are more than one thing. I think sometimes that gets hard too because you love something so much, it's
Oh
hard
my
not to
God.
define yourself by it. And then when things aren't exactly working the way you want them to, you're like, "Oh, well, how do I see myself then?" But you
Gosh.
forget all the other things you are, you know? There's so many other roles you play, so many other things you mean to other people, and
Yeah.
I think that's important to keep yourself anchored and grounded.
Absolutely.
Well, going on to some of the work you've done, I wanted to talk about Death on the Border, because
Oh,
it deals with some heavy material, reflecting on real world topics. and a big cast of characters. So, what was that experience like? Tell me a little bit about that story and what it was on set, because it seemed that like it may have been intense shooting.
It was very intense. For those of our listeners that are not familiar with that film, it's a indie film that we did in LA. Big cast. It was probably my first feature film ever, and I was, I think, 23 at the time, or 24, 23. It came out when I was 24. um, everybody has a type when you're an actor, and I have found that my type is a lot of times like traumatized, troubled girl. I'm good at crying, I think is what it is. Um, I don't know if that's good or bad. Um, but that's kind of what I usually fall into. Like even La Santera and Gleam, they're kind of there's always that hard scene of outburst feelings and like very heavy stuff. So all of these three projects have that. In Death on the Border, I played a trafficked young Mexican girl that was trafficked from the border into the US. And there's this cop and this lady who work to save us and protect us from this horrible, horrible thing. There was a lot of layers to the project. I really enjoyed my time on set. Again, I got to work with Danny Trejo. Oh my gosh. That was a dream come true that made me cry. He has no idea that I cried on set. The moment I saw him and I saw his name on the call sheet, because that was how I found out. I saw his name on the call sheet and I was like, I feel like I know that name, Danny Trejo. And then I go into Google and I'm like, Danny Trejo. And then I see like the first thing is like Machete, the movie, right? I immediately started texting my parents. I am freaking out. I'm crying because I'm like, I had no idea that this person was going to be here. And I got to have scenes with him. And he is such a sweet, amazing human being. And I just really love that I got to work with him. But the scenes that I usually was in, oh, so this is the thing. I was playing a 15-year-old. At the time, like I said, I was either 22 or 23. They needed an older actor to play all the hard scenes that minor actors couldn't do because the rest of the trafficked girls, the cast, they were all under 18 years old. It was only me who was older, so I could do again like all the hard scenes, the things that are not a minor should never do. And the monologues that inform a lot of this storyline and how heavy the subject is. So that was a journey. um there was a lot of moments on set, especially when we would be and the movie's out so people can see it. I'm not spoiling. I don't want to spoil, but I'm not revealing anything that you shouldn't know is there's one scene and it's on the poster where we're in like this van and we're lined up sitting down like we're being smuggled in. That scene I remember it got me shaking just cuz like I guess you hear so many stories about these Mexican people, my people going through so many horrible things and that um I really wanted to do it for those people that don't have a voice. And I think that's selfish, but it fueled me in a way that I'm not just doing this for money. I'm not just doing this to make a movie. This is a message that I think deserves to have a spotlight. And it calmed me down because I was really shaky. I was like really nervous and I don't know. It felt really dark in that the back of the car. It felt really dark. I don't know why. But again, I try to give myself purpose in everything that I do, similar to Sugar Skull that have a lot of purpose in a different way. But with this one, it was like, I remember you're doing this for this message deserves to be heard. It's not just show. It's not just a pretty movie. This has a message that deserves to be heard. And that gave me a lot of courage. And yeah, it was a intense shooting. COVID was happening. I got COVID from Danny
Wow,
Trejo. Yes. So we had to stop filming,
that's the
and then we
story.
came back like 2 or 3 months later. So again, it was very intense in so many ways, but I was honored to be invited into that project and to be able to play a Mexican girl. Because again, I don't usually get cast as Mexican, which is fine, but yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. I think especially, I think your nervousness just is proof of it meaning something to you. Someone once
Yeah.
told me that. They said, "Your nervousness just means that it's important to you." I mean, it shows, and I think you were able to channel that, which I think is the best thing, and working with Danny and having that experience, I mean, I'm sure it's just in general, on top of what the story was and what it meant to you, it was just like an added bonus, which was a nice
Oh my god.
surprise, I think.
I needed to impress that man. But he actually thought I was, like 15 when he met me
Uh,
until so he would talk to me like I'm a like I'm a kid.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Later on, he was like, "Oh, oh, you're an adult. Okay, I can talk to you normal. That's great." And so he's very sweet. Yeah, and that was another layer too, having him on. He was like the star.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
amazing.
I've heard very good things, so I'm so happy that you had that experience because it made it
Yeah.
even more special, I think. Especially at a hard time, like, COVID was not an easy time to film
Oh my god,
anything,
not at all.
and
But
I'm
I'm
sure
happy to
it's
say
it's
sorry, I was just gonna say,
No, go
but
ahead, go ahead.
I'm happy to say that the first time I got COVID was thanks to Danny Trejo. Like, that's the thing
I
I
was
will
gonna
hold
say
on
that's an
to
honor.
forever. Yeah, that is an honor. Yeah. Sorry, what were you
And
gonna
I'm
say?
sure filming stuff on a set and on film is so vastly different from theater work. Um, but like you said, in terms of an important story and something that connects with you, Sugar Skull was something completely different, and yet something so beautiful. And Valeria, has shared a lot about the role she played. So I was wondering about your experience with that and your role, because you got to work with her hand in hand for so much of that.
Yes! Like I said, we see each other, like, maybe once or twice a month. I wanna say more. We try to do it more. Every month is different. But, we've been doing ceramics together. So anyway, a great friendship came out of that project. But the project in itself, I played Vita. So she played Sugar Skull. Sugar Skull and Vita are, the main characters of the story. They drive the story. Um, Everything is set up by Sugar Skull in order to teach Vita a lesson. So they go hand in we're together the whole show. Um, she was amazing. Um, so my character is this young girl who is American born, but with both of her parents being from Mexico. Her grandma passes away. We don't get to see this. We start at the Day of the Dead. Mom and daughter trying to set up the altar, la ofrenda, and first Vita is not into Day of the Dead. She's like, "Oh, my friends are not doing this. Why would I do this? This is like lame, and I want to do Halloween and blah blah blah." She's being a kid, um, and so moms get mad. Her mom gets mad at her, and she feels guilty, especially remembering her abuelita. She had a beautiful relationship with abuelita. We wanted to make that very clear. This is the reason why she feels bad when mom gets mad at her. It's because, this is all about honoring your elders, more specifically abuelita, who died recently. And so from then on, Sugar Skull comes to life. It's a little calaca, like a little sugar skull. Literally, we have, are you from Mexico by any chance? Where are you from?
No, I'm from Puerto Rico.
From Puerto Rico. In Mexico,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard, but when we put on ofrendas, there's son calacas de azúcar. It's just it's just sugar in the form of a skull, and we put those on the ofrenda, and it's a classic thing. That's the first thing you see on an ofrenda. So one of those comes to life, Valeria, and Sugar School teaches me everything that there is to know about the flowers, the cempasúchil, the papel picado, which is like the little paper, the cut down paper that is like on top of the ofrenda, what the candles mean, what the photos mean, what everything means. And I learned to appreciate, and we go into this like kind of like Coco. We go into the underworld in a sense, and we have this amazing journey with a lot of dance. And at the end of it, I come out uniting with my grandma again. That's a moving moment. It always hits. Um, and at the very end, it's all like a dream. It was all like a dream. And mom comes back, and the ofrenda looks better now because I finally did what I was supposed to do, and we hug, and that's like the whole story, right? Yeah, I played that, young girl, and I identify with it a lot because I was like that. I didn't wanna celebrate Day of the Dead. I wanted to do Halloween, Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos. And the area that I'm from, we call it Hanal Pishan, which is the Mayan version. Yeah, Hanal Pishan. So it's the same thing. We just have slightly different things. Like for example, we use a lot of palma de coco because we have palmeras. How do you say palmeras? Palm trees. We have a lot of palm trees. So it's all
Yes.
based on what we have in the area. And yeah, so I relate to Vita a lot. This is why I was so passionate about it. And she's so quirky and fun. And like, I just really like playing a child. I think I just like that. Yeah.
I feel like it gives you a range to kind of just like let out your emotions in extreme ways and
Oh,
like
yeah.
act big, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
And then for it to be such a personal connection for you, I think is super special because I'm sure there's plenty of other people with a similar experience to you that can see this show and relate and feel
Oh
like,
my
you know what, I
goodness.
kind of want to connect with my culture more. And then on the flip side of that, there's people who have no connection to the culture, but could see this show and actually learn from it as your character learns from it, which I think
Yeah.
is
And this
also a beautiful thing.
And it happened a lot. Like, we had a lot of people, like, asking, like, "Why should I go see the show? I don't I'm not Mexican, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm from the US, I'm white." Like, and what I always like to say, it's just this is just a way to remember your deceased, family in a fun way. Um, because so this is the example I give. We put things that are meaningful to us in the ofrenda. It's like where you put the picture of your grandma, whoever passed away, and you fill it up with things that your grandma liked. And because it's our culture, that could be la calaverita de azúcar. It could be like her if she smoked or alcohol, cerveza, agua de coco, whatever it is, you put it on the altar. Specifically, cempasúchil and those things are like the traditional things. Cempasúchil creates the bridge between the dead and the living. So that is always going to be there. But you, or whoever, if your mom really liked Coca Cola, then put a Coca Cola in your altar. This is all about honoring them. And yeah, we had a lot of kids who would watch the show and they're not Mexican and they would be like, "Oh, I want to put on an ofrenda." And they would tell me what their grandparents liked and what they were going to put on the altar and that they were going to play music. And that was really wholesome to hear because the way we celebrate the dead is very colorful. It's full of life. Of course there's mourning, but there's a lot of music and color and smells and food and you have like the big pictures of your family and then your living family and we're all talking about them in a beautiful way. Like it's full of heart. And this is in every culture. And I think we have something to learn from every culture. And I think from us Mexicans, it's cool that we can learn to have fun when we remember the dead because they left in so many colors. It wasn't just mourning. It was like fun and laughter. And oh, I remember the silly thing that they did. Ha 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 ha. And everybody's laughing. It's like that kind of vibe. Again, I lived through this with my family. So I have a lot of passion for this tradition that we have. And yeah, it can be adapted to anybody. Like I do it now with my partner. He's Korean. So he doesn't do Day of the Dead, but now we do, and we try to honor his family too. And I love asking him about his grandparents, and I don't know, that also connects me to him more because then I get to learn about his history. And I think it's just beautiful. In any way that you want to do it, you can celebrate Day of the Dead. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's so much beauty in it where I think it's remembering the dead by celebrating their life.
Yes.
And I think that's the magic in it, you know? And I think it's important also just as humans to remember to do that. It's hard to kind of overcome sometimes the hardships of life itself and then the loss and the grief of people that are no longer here but affected our life in some way. And so
Yeah.
to remember them in that way and to celebrate it, it's remembering the little things, the important things, the ones that really made a difference. And I think that's
And
that's
to
so
share
beautiful.
it
And
with
I'm
the living. To share it with the
yeah,
living.
That's the other
Because
thing.
sometimes
Because
we, like, keep it in and we don't share it and we explode. But when you celebrate it, when you
yes.
make it a tradition, then you can share that burden and it feels so good. It feels really good.
And I'm sure also getting to do that in such a grand scale, like on a stage with an audience, must be
Oh
like a
my
whole other level.
gosh. Yeah. We were able to fill a lot of theaters. We do most of the shows are for schools, so the school will bring the kids. But we were able to fill a lot of theaters, and I will never forget a very specific one where we had a. It was at the back of the theater. There was this little school that it was mostly Mexican kids. It was like multiple schools at once, but the very back of the theater, there were like these specifically Mexican kids. Every time they would see, for example, the Aztec, there's a character that is an Aztec warrior. He comes out and he does a dance. Oh my goodness, they would chant Mexico, Mexico. And that never happened again. That was like the one time. And every time there was a moment of emotion or pride, like when the Aztec warrior would come out, or when the end of the show, we would hear it at the back of the theater, and it made me feel so proud. And I can only imagine what it meant to them. You know what I mean? For these kids to be so aware, to chant, they probably have, I don't know if they've ever been to Mexico, but to see themselves in this presentation, to celebrate it, to see the colors. Maybe they've never learned anything about this tradition or Mexico, or maybe they've done little versions of Day of the Dead at home, but to see and for them to chant it, to me, it communicated that they, it felt like they finally accepted a version of themselves. I don't know how to explain it in that moment. You probably know when you're in stage and you get all this energy just thrown at you. I came out of that stage just bawling because I just wanted to hug all of those kids. I really wanted to just give them all my love and appreciation because they deserve to be seen and see themselves in theater, in movies, and whatever. And that was a priceless moment, priceless.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to ask about magical moments for yourself that you've experienced in theater, and then that's one of them. And I've heard similar stories of people who have either performed shows in Mexico or in Puerto Rico, and how different the live audience is there, and how that relationship with the audience and the performer kind of changes the whole vibe of the night and just makes it so much more alive and so much bigger and bolder and beautiful. And so it's great that you got to experience that because it doesn't happen all the time.
No, no, it's rare. And I think it fuels you as an artist to get that immediate feedback. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really delicious.
It brings a realness to it, I think, and makes it just feel more alive. And I think that's why theater and musicals and just live entertainment like that is so powerful because there's like an immediate response and reaction and a feeling in the crowd. And I think it's great when people can be vocal about it so that you know about it. And you're no stranger to that in terms of live theater.
Yeah.
I know you were just in something on stage, but you were also just announced as being part of the stage reading for Coronation at Spotlight New
Yeah.
Works Fest on July 1st and 2nd. So what can you share about that and what it's about and your role in it?
Yeah, so it is a new play. I've actually the writer, Peter Fenton. I've worked with him before. I did my off-Broadway debut with his play Abandon All Hope, where I played Melissa. And really love working with Peter. We talked about community at the beginning of this conversation. And I think I have found community, at least with Peter, with Valeria. And it's really nice to come back and work together with Peter again. This is a new play that he is done. Think of it as Mean Girls, but also, yeah, like it's like a high school drama. And I can't spoil too much, but I play Maria. Maria is a girl who is like kind of like an underdog, but very assured of herself. She's not popular, but she loves her crafts and she doesn't feel like she needs to prove herself to anybody. And basically, she somehow gets nominated to be homecoming queen. And she's like, "Huh, me? Never. Like, who even thought to do that? But could I? Like, she's kind of like this playful little girl. And the lead of the play, he kind of orchestrates, like, his hand is in there, and he's my best friend. So it's like a little journey of school drama and coming of age on multiple characters. We have a girl who is like the queen bee type, and she's the one that's meant to be the homecoming queen according to her. So it's like one of those plays. It's very fun. Peter's way of writing is very introspective, and he likes exploring dynamics between characters rather than like having a specific objective, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not about um being homecoming queen. It's about the growth. It's about the relationships, the dynamics, the fights, the tension. Why are they doing this? So Peter, I really enjoy Peter's writing. He's going to be directing it, and it's just a little stage reading, but we're hoping to be able to put it up eventually. This is a part of a festival. And yeah, we have a lot of hopes for that project too. The way that we had a lot of hopes with Abandon All Hope. And that one actually got produced in his hometown, Philadelphia. We had two showings. And yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of working, a lot of fun of things.
Well, I'm crossing my fingers and manifesting because that sounds like so much fun, especially for
Yeah.
you to play. Because it sounds like a character who has a lot of different sides to her that can be
Yeah.
explored, which is always a fun thing. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's part of the magic. I mean, I like to talk about the magic that people feel and what they do and where they find it, whether it's on or off the stage. And for you, where do you find magic most?
Honor off the stage. Oh, that's there could be many answers, at least for me, about that. Because I think I find magic. I'm a very anxious person. And this job can cause a lot of anxiety because of so many so many reasons. Being
Yeah.
SAG, not being SAG, what projects can I do? What can I do? Is this paying enough for me to join SAG? It's so many, like, both management wise, business wise, and performance wise, because of course auditions and going through rejection. And I'm already an anxious person, so wherever I try to find the magic, I think it's genuinely not on stage, unless, like, meaning, because you're not booked the majority of the time. If you're lucky, you are, but for the majority of the time you're auditioning. That's what you're doing. And I think I find the magic in playing with my friends. I think I've come to a point where I don't take auditions seriously at all. Like, I just don't. I honor them and I respect them and I want to do justice to them, but I don't overwhelm myself with trying to be perfect. Sometimes I do, but it's like I'm going to put myself in the role. And if I'm right for it, then I'm right for it. And I feel like that way I've been able to. The last 2 years have been really good for me, finally. Thank goodness. Because the very first 5 years of my career were slow. I was booking, but it was slow. The last 2 years it's been like at least one project every month, and that came with a lot of years of trial and error and finding my way of auditioning. Now it only takes me an hour to do a 5-page audition. Like, I'm really fast. Um, but that took time. That took practice. It's been 8 years. So I think I find the magic in playing whenever it comes audition wise. Um, when it comes to being on set or on stage, to me that's work. I don't know if I find the magic until I get an audience response. Is that fair to say? I Because
Absolutely.
it's work. I'm working, I'm here to work. It's a business. I gotta be professional. Of course, I get to have fun, but especially when you're working on a set, it's so fast. You cannot be in the way of anybody. And sometimes you just get 2 takes. You're never gonna know. We're running out of time. So you gotta be locked in. You gotta be professional. So the magic is mostly when it's finished and we get to see it up. That's when the magic happens. It's like, all that hard work. Oh my goodness. And then whenever it's not work or auditions, I find the magic in being with myself, like at home. I love spending time with my boyfriend playing video games, like all the everyday stuff. I love fermenting food. I love
Awesome.
fermenting food, which is really weird. but I find it very inspiring. I'm a plant mom. I don't know if you can see my little plants. I'm a plant mom. I find the magic in everything but acting because, again, it helps with my anxiety and get distracted. I find that I need to get distracted, and I would call that a magic because it's like, oof, by distracting myself, the anxiety goes away, and that's like a miracle. That's the magic. And then when I come back to work, I'm refreshed. So that's what I mean. I feel like I find the magic in different places. I don't think there's one moment or place that I can find it. And yeah, that's my long answer.
I think that's perfect though, and I think it's so important. I think I've talked to people who said, auditioning, they've learned you have to treat it as part of the job, versus like I'm auditioning to get a job. Auditioning's part of the job,
Mm,
and
yeah.
treating it like that and coming to that approach helps a lot. But then, like you said, the everyday stuff, that's where the magic lies a lot because you have to spread your heart and your passion and your soul into different things, not just the one. Because
Yeah.
you're never going to be fed by one source all your life. And so it's important to remind yourself of that and that you're many things. And I think, yeah, like you said, the magic comes from that, from human connection and other people and being with
Yeah.
yourself. What you said about like being with yourself, I think is so, it's not said enough. And I think it's very, very
No. When I'm with myself, washing the dishes. Basically in charge of washing the dishes. And I'm with myself. I'm enjoying my life. I paid for this apartment. I paid for this plates. Like, I know it's kind of cliche, but I have come through a process of like accepting where I'm at in life. And that really makes me appreciate that I am in an apartment that I really enjoy. I have dishes of my own. I don't have just one plate, which I used to only have one plate, one fork, one knife, one spoon. That was how I was living for a long time. Now I have six. And that's amazing. Let's wash the dishes and give love to the thing that I like this desk. Oh my God, this desk. It goes up and down. It goes up and it
oh
goes
my
down. You
God.
know how much I love this thing? So anyway, what I'm trying to say is like going through struggle has taught me to really appreciate where I'm at. And I think when I come back from these big experience, like being on stage for Sugar School, like being on a film set, I've been on several film sets the last month that they have been amazing, and I can't wait to be able to share more about them. But when I come back, it's like, oh, it's my little apartment, just me, myself, and I again. Let's water my plants. Go back to your routine. That's where the magic is. Because then when I audition for a role that is a plant mom or a somebody who works in the kitchen, I know what it's like. I know how to do it. It's in my body because I don't forget to live my life. I think that's so important. I remember my one of my acting teachers was really firm on that. And when you're young, you're like, "Ugh, I want to be famous, I want to be rich, and I want to like have the best life." But that's not how you get the life experiences that bring life to the characters and the auditions that you're gonna get. That's why I think, especially for me, it took so long for me to like let go of that ego, right? And 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 really allow myself to live my life, the struggling actor life, which thank God, like I said, the last 2 years, I feel like I'm not struggling anymore. But it came from accept where you are, enjoy what you're doing, and then use it on the self tape. You're gonna book it because you're being truthful to yourself. Yeah. Sorry, I ramble.
Yeah. No, I think that's perfect. I think it's all about enjoying the process, because I think it's easy to forget when anyone's pursuing a dream and maybe there's goals in mind of where we want to be, where we think we should be and all that, that we're living the dream. We're in the process of it. And
Yeah.
so it's easy to forget that. And I think just living your life also is just so important. The little things are the things. They're really the big things. They're the things that make life so joyous and worth celebrating.
I
And with all that
that
magic that
reminds
you're
me.
feeling, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. I that just reminded me of something. Here's a little example of something happening in your life and then using it in an audition. I was with my dad in Mexico like 2 years ago, and he was going through some trouble getting a payment, and the banks closed. I don't remember if it was New Year or if it was like the weekend. I don't remember, but the banks were closed. And if he didn't get the money before the Monday or something like that, he was probably not going to be able to get it. and it was so stressful. We were going to banks, we were talking to, his bosses. It was like a whole thing. And in the end, it got resolved. But then later, like 2 years later, this is literally like maybe a week ago, I did a film that the audition piece was, I'm trying to help a person that I work with get money, um, because he got in trouble. He loaned money from the sharks. A payment from a job that we did didn't come through, and he's trying to get the money, and he's talking to me. He's like, "What do I do?" And I was like, "Oh my god, I know exactly what this is like. I've lived this. Thank God I didn't forget to live my life and stress with my dad and yell at my dad and be concerned and be like, Dad, why? Like, how could you forget to go to the bank Friday night? Like, how could you forget?" And it brought so much life to the audition piece. I was really fortunate to book it. And again, that's what I mean. Like, it's all these little things that you think, oh my God, my life sucks. But then it's fuel for the auditions, for the job. Yeah. I just wanted to share that a little.
Yeah, it's part of what makes it feel so authentic. No, that's a perfect story, I think, because that's what makes it feel real, and I think that's what
Yeah.
gives an even better performance when you've lived through this stuff, you know what that feeling is like,
The
and it's so
anxiety, the the
funny,
the
you
fear.
mentioned. Yes, and you mentioned having anxiety, and I'm thinking to myself, like, that must be so helpful in playing roles because anyone who goes through anxiety, I do myself, I know what that feels like, and I feel like you can put yourself into the shoes of so many different characters and situations because you know exactly what that mindset is like and the different levels of it and the stages of it.
The
And yeah, it's a
hyperventilation.
beautiful thing. Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty. I think, like you said, living your life and experiencing things and human connection. And then it translates on the stage. And I think then when the audience sees it and you feel that magic from them, it's because they see themselves in their lives in what you're displaying. And it's a circle and it's an endless cycle. And
Yes.
so within that, I'm curious where you hope to create magic for others in your life.
Oh, where do I hope to create magic? And think in my personal life, because as an actor, there's like the audience, and as a person, there's my family and my partner, the people that are very close to me. I think with the people that are very close to me, I hope to create magic in memories. Again, going back to living my life and not forgetting to pay attention to those things, not neglect my sister. She just became a mom. I can't wait to meet my niece. They're all in Mexico, so I'm really hoping to get to meet them soon. I hope to create magic in being a part of their lives. I don't want to be lost here, which I've done plenty. I'm guilty of that. Um, I want to be in their lives more and share their lives, have them share their lives with me, and me as well, because they don't get to see my everyday at all, at all. They just hear the big news. So yeah, in that sense, with my partner, I think I've gotten really good at paying attention to things that we both need, um, and building that, watering that plant. And I hope that I am able to communicate to the people around me in a way that is honest, respectful, and just I want to be all ears. And I want to get rid of like ego because at the very beginning of my career there was a lot of ego. I've been working on that. And with my audience, I think wherever that is, whether it's a commercial, a play, or a little short film or a feature film, fingers crossed. Um, I think what I really want is to share purpose. I think as a big global community, we all have the things that gives us purpose. And I would love for the audiences that resonate with my story, both as whatever character I'm playing and as Juliana, being a Mexican woman, etc., that fuels and gives people purpose and motivation. And I hope that makes their lives more colorful and magical in that sense. Yeah, I think purpose is very important. It's not just about the money, not just about the fame. It's definitely about what does this mean for me and what am I really providing to the audience, the paying audience. Are they going to care? Is it going to move them in any way? Is it going to make them talk? Then that's exactly the kind of magic I would love to have people experience coming from me.
Well, I think you're absolutely succeeding in that. Just talking to you,
Oh,
I feel inspired. I think there's a spark in you that shines through. You have a great energy about you, and I feel like you have a good head on your shoulders and how you're viewing life and what you're doing and the beauty of it. So cheering you on, manifesting everything that you've got coming, and I can't wait to hear more, everything you can't talk about yet. But you're a magic maker. So Juliana, thank you so much for being on. Like it's been a pleasure just getting to know you a
oh,
bit more. And I'll definitely have you on again in the future when you have more stuff to talk about that you can't talk about yet. But
absolutely.
I'm excited to follow your path.
Oh, thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you for having me. It's been so nice to talk to you.
Of
It's
course.
nice to like share this with people because I feel like there's a lot of like new actors that are maybe just starting and they have no idea what to expect. And this is so nice that you have this. I was listening to a few of your episodes once I got the wonderful invitation, and it's really nice to hear other people's experiences because we get so lost in our own journey. And I really thank you for opening up that space so that other people can get inspiration and hear what's up with this industry.
Well, thank you for saying that because yeah, I wanted to start this so people who listen don't feel so alone. And whatever their dream may be and whatever they're chasing, whatever they're doing in their life, like the struggle is universal and we all go through it. And loneliness is not being alone. They're not the same thing. So thank you for being part of
Yeah.
that magic and reminding people
Thank
that they're not
you.
alone in it.
Oh,
And
thank
everyone out there, if
you.
you're listening, go out there and do some magic. See you next time.